Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by Coca-Cola.
By Cook Inlet Region Incorporated, an Alaska Native corporation promoting economic and social progress for people throughout the state.
By the generous support of the Alaska Native Health Board.
Welcome to Heartbeat Alaska. I'm Jeannie Green, bringing you Native news and information across Canada, Russia, Greenland, Alaska, and news from the lower 48. Before we begin today's program, I'd like to share some information with you. A memo was received to some State of Alaska maintenance employees on the telecommunications crew. There'll be no more travel money allocated as of July 1st, and that's to go out and fix the earth stations, probably in your village. If you have a problem with this, or if you need some more information, please contact the State of Alaska and most definitely your legislator. On today's program, we have North Slope Borough News with Tina Corwin. She has some video from the World Eskimo Olympics recently held in Fairbanks. We travel over to Bethel, where John Active from KYUK-TV has an interview with some Siberian Yupiks. The dancers were there for the Cama-i Festival. All that plus much more. But first, here's Gary Fife with National Native News.
This is National Native News. I'm Gary Fife. Improvements to the tribal college system was the focus of a hearing before the U.S. Senate Indian Affairs Committee Thursday. One aspect was the poor physical shape of the 24 tribal colleges. School leaders say the Bureau of Indian Affairs Education Office has not been doing enough to help repair or construct new buildings. Carol Murray, president of the Blackfeet Community College in Browning, Montana, testified that it's hard for her students to concentrate in the trailers and other makeshift buildings they attend classes in, so academic performance is affected. The chairman of the American Indian Higher Education Consortium, Dr. Robert Lawrence, says it all boils down to money. He asked Congress to set aside $30 million to repair buildings and plan for new facilities. Another concern is a telecommunications network that's being planned to link up the tribal colleges. Project sponsors are asking Congress for about $2 million to get the first phase of the project going. They say in addition to education programs, the network could become a vital communications link among tribes and federal government agencies. A dispute between Alaska Natives and the Arco Alaska Oil Company over oil drilling got turned up a notch. In a battle of press releases, the North Slope Borough has charged that the oil company conspired to get a drilling permit for an area in the Beaufort Sea heavily used by Eskimos for their annual bowhead whale hunts. Borough Mayor Jessley Kalayak and Eskimo Whaling Commission Burton Rexford charged that the permit was obtained while talks were going on between Arco and the Eskimos about how to protect the whales and the hunt. Arco officials have responded, saying they're shocked and surprised at the charges. Their press release says that the company has worked extensively with the Eskimos, and according to their attorney, the two sides had reached some agreement about Native concerns. They also said scientists from government agencies and the whaling communities had reviewed the Arco drilling plans. Kalayak has vowed to have Eskimo boats gathered in a proposed drilling area to make it difficult for the oil company to go ahead. Native American employment and training groups are angry at the U.S. Department of Labor for not coming through with changes in the way the DOL is supposed to do business with tribes and Native grantees. That's caught the ear of the Senate Indian Affairs Committee, and they plan to conduct hearings on the Labor Department's Native programs. Tribal program grantees say the labor officials are dragging their feet on changes and regulations called for by Congress. They also say the Labor Department has never publicly revealed the planned regulation changes they are working on, or that no official of the Clinton administration has come forward to learn of their problems. They also charge that DOL has not begun to appoint a Native Advisory Council as required by law. A federal appeals court in Chicago has ruled that it is a crime to take ancient Native American relics from burial sites, even when they're on private property. The 7th U.S. Court of Appeals has affirmed the conviction of a non-native, Arthur A. Gerber. Gerber pleaded guilty to plundering a 1,000-year-old mound by trespassing on land owned by the General Electric Company to collect relics for sale at a Native Artifacts Bazaar he runs annually in Owensboro, Kentucky. He quickly challenged his conviction to the appeals court. A 3-judge panel rejected his contention, saying that the Federal Archaeological Resources Protection Act applied to such violations of state law and interstate trafficking. Russian natives in Chukotka are using the American media to get the attention of the Russian government. 2 Eskimo associations in the former Soviet Far East issued press releases warning that American tourist ships are damaging wildlife areas in the North Pacific. Natives there hope publicity from their protest will push the Russian government to protect native lands and resources. And finally, the American Indian Film Institute is currently seeking entries for their 18th annual American Indian Film Festival and Video Exposition. This year's festival is again set for San Francisco and starts a 4-day run November 11th. The deadline for entries is September 2nd, 1993. This is National Native News, and for Heartbeat Alaska, I'm Gary Fife.
Thanks, Gary. We'll return with some news from the North Slope Borough and the World Eskimo Indian Olympics right after these messages.
May I help you, sir?
Yeah, I'll have a Coca-Cola.
You sure you want a Coke?
Yeah, I want a Coke.
Okay, pal.
How did you order a Coke? It tastes good. I didn't care if it was a Coke. You just want to I'll just have a cola. I'll just have a cola. I'll just have a cola.
Something to drink, sir?
I'll just have a...
You'll just have a...
I'll just have a Coke.
Ooh.
Hear that, guys? A Coca-Cola. See ya, pal. Oh!
Jacob,
Ruby,
Joseph,
the names are many.
Walter,
People from the bush,
Buddy,
people from the cities,
Alex,
Eskimos,
Susan,
Aleuts, Indians.
George,
They're all our people.
Peter,
Deaths from alcoholism must stop,
Herman,
and there's help.
Julie,
It's at the Alaska Native
Moses,
Alcoholism Recovery Center.
Daniel,
Call Anarch now
Alice,
for yourself,
Tommy,
for a friend,
Carl,
or for a family member.
Mike,
Honor our
Jane,
dead,
Jack,
but celebrate life.
Sergey,
Call Anarch.
Sam, Rachel.
My name is Dave Kujawa, and I'm from Sun City, Arizona. And I will be watching Heartbeat Alaska to really learn about the true Alaska.
You'll be here for another month to watch the program.
All the contestants in the World Eskimo Indian Olympics are truly winners. Tina Corwin from the North Slope Borough reports on this event, and also one that truly was a winner, Miss World Indian Eskimo Olympics from Barrow.
Good evening and welcome to North Slope News. The annual World Eskimo Indian Olympics ended last week in Fairbanks. WEIO is a week-long event which includes a variety of traditional games and tests of strength and endurance. Natives from Alaska, Canada, and the lower 48 come together for several days of dancing, competition, socializing, and sharing cultural knowledge. WEIO was started in 1960 and continues to be a successful annual event. Barrow is proud of local resident Tara MacLean, who was chosen the new Miss WEIO, World Eskimo Indian Olympics. I spoke with Tara this week about her experience.
I'm an Inupiaq. I grew up here in Barrow. I've done a little bit of traveling while growing up in New Zealand, Inuit, Wainwright, all around the state. And this fall I'll be a junior attending Cornell University in Ithaca, New York.
How many other contestants were there?
There were nine other contestants, 7 from the state of Alaska, all the different regions in Alaska, and 2 from the Navajo Nation from Shipwreck, New Mexico.
Did you find it a good opportunity for you to learn about the different native cultures?
Yeah, we spent a week together, and throughout that week we found a lot of similarities between the different cultures, and the most common value that we all had was respecting our elders.
Being in the position you are now, you are considered a role model by many students across the state. Do you have a message that you would like to spread during this year since you are Miss WEIO?
I feel that a strong sense of cultural identity is essential for Native survival, and people need to recreate that strong tie to their culture. And once that's accomplished, we as communities can grow stronger and to achieve positive goals to grow as a community.
Okay, and what did you find most rewarding about this whole experience that you spent in Fairbanks?
The most rewarding experience that we had was visiting the Fairbanks Correctional Facility, and we visited with 60 inmates, both men and women, non-Native and Native, who were all a part of this Native cultural awareness class. And it was a type of healing process that the inmates would go through, and it was very positive and very nice to see that they were accepting themselves for who they are, and they're ready to go back into the community. And one thing that I'd like to stress is that once the inmates and people return to the community from the jail systems, we need to have an integrating process for those members to use them as resources instead of liabilities, use them as assets to our community so that we can all grow stronger. And it's not just a healing process for the inmates, it's a healing process for the entire community. And I think that's very essential to grow as a Native culture, as Native people.
Well, do you have any suggestions out there for the inmates that you might want to give when they do come back to the community?
The first step would most likely to set some positive goals while they're inside the jail system, to set positive goals as to what they want to accomplish once they come out. Now, if that's going out to catch some fish, to going out to catch a whale, some wolverine, whatever, that's their right. And once they have their goals set, then they won't be sitting idle once they get back into the community. I think that's very important, and for the community to be there for that support once they get out is essential.
Oh, good. Well, Tara, thank you so much for coming over here and taking some time to be with us. You know, we're very proud of you, and we feel that we're very well represented right now. And we wish you the best of luck in other pageants and throughout this year, and in school.
Thanks.
Good luck in school.
Thank you, Tina.
We would also like to congratulate Miss Arctic Circle, Jessie Downey of Point Hope, who was chosen second runner-up in the competition. Among the other winners during this year's competition were the Barrow Dance Group, which took first place trophy in the Eskimo dance. Wainwright and Tikiguk traditional dancers tied for second, and Nubelmute took third. And finally, we'd like to congratulate all of the winners from the North Slope who competed so well and brought home so many good memories and new friendships along with their medals. For Heartbeat Alaska and the North Slope Borough, I'm Tina Corwin. Kleenukbuk.
Thank you, Tina. And thank you, Lindsay Cameron and Marie Young, for that excellent video of the World Eskimo Indian Olympics held recently in Fairbanks. Congratulations are due to all the winners. In fact, congratulations are due to all the contestants. The wonderful thing about traditional games is that it's mainly competition against oneself to enhance one's own skills. And if I may, I'd like to congratulate my nephew, Tony Deere in Seward, for coming in second in the stick pull. Now over to Bethel with John Active from KYUK-TV. He interviewed some Siberian Yupiks that were there for the Cama-i Festival.
Welcome to Delta Digest. I'm John Active. During this spring's Cama-i Dance Festival, I had the opportunity to speak with the Russian Yup'ik Eskimo dancers from Lavrentia on the eastern tip of the Chukotka Peninsula in Russia. YK Delta residents were taken by the dancers partly because they were Yup'ik and because they finally got to participate in Cama-i. I trust you'll enjoy the interview with the 6 Russian dancers, Margarita Gluhi, Natalia Kudryasheva, Olga Amashiva, and the men Anatoly Tulyun, Boris Tnaun, and Misha Ankaun. Our translator was Natalie Novik of Kotzebue. She's the coordinator of every type of exchange with Chukotka, Canada, Greenland, and Alaska. Novik traveled to Bethel with the 6 Yup'ik dancers from Russia and also translated for this show. The Yupik people here in southwest Alaska primarily live off the land, what we call subsistence lifestyle. We hunt animals and do a lot of fishing, especially during the summer months for different kinds of salmon. We also gather wild edible plants and berries to make akutak. Perhaps I can ask one of you to tell us about what kind of lifestyle your people live where you come from.
What I would like to say in answer to your question is that we also practice a subsistence lifestyle, which also revolves around the seasons. So, for instance, in the winter, we hunt seals, ugruk. In recent times, we have started doing more catching the seals by nets than hunting them with guns. And then in the summer, we go with our boats to hunt for walrus. And also, of course, we pick berries. So we do also maintain a subsistence lifestyle.
A long time ago, before we Yupik began to live in cities such as Bethel and surrounding villages, we used to travel each season to our spring, summer, and fall camps to hunt and fish. Today we still do this, but during the winter months we live in the villages and cities because the children have to go to school and some of us have to work. Do the people where, or the people where he comes from have the same lifestyle?
We used to live in one village called Nauka. Then in the 50s, the authorities decided to close the village, and they scattered our people in many different villages. So today we're in villages like Lavrentia and Welen and Lorino, and there are even some of us in Providenia.
We'll have more dancing and interview with John Active and the Siberian Yupik dancers right after these messages.
If you have news or information from your village or community, please call Heartbeat Alaska, area code 907-563-3507, or fax 907-563-7079.
In our country here in Alaska, United States, today our government regulates our hunting of certain types of geese because their numbers are getting less and less. Are there any kind of regulations in their country for certain birds or animals that they hunt for food? And, you know, is it causing any problems for the people who subsist?
Yes, we do have quotas also on almost every species of animal or bird that you can imagine, marine mammals or ducks or geese or whatever. But you have to see that the situation is slightly different because, for one thing, the native population is much smaller than in Alaska. For another thing, a good part of the meat that they get comes from reindeer herding. So when they get the chance to have meat from some marine mammal, it's generally considered to be sufficient for their needs.
Наше поколение, вот такое поколение, мы всегда нас учили, дети, прадеды.
For my generation, it was always considered that the word of the elder was the law. In other words, what an elder had said had to be accomplished, and we would never try to stop or contradict an elder. These are traditionally made slippers, which are embroidered. The border is made with sheepskin. Оленя кожа, да? And this is made with black leather, which comes from the leather factory where they process reindeer leather. And the ornament on this, on these slippers, and we see a little bit of this here also, is made with braided reindeer hair.
Это наша традиция. Это мы обязательно в нашем Чукотском районе вот это распространено. Вот эта традиция шить под шейным волосом.
And it's a very important tradition in our region to use the reindeer hair to do this this braiding. So you can see the very small stitches she makes by using several strands of reindeer hair gathered together and stitched together.
Do all of them like to hunt? Do they hunt?
А вы все любите идти на охоту?
Естественно.
Yes, naturally.
Do you think Eskimo dancing is important for the children to learn, and if so, why?
Extremely important. There is no question about it. For us, it has always been a most important component of our culture, of our traditions, and we think that it's mandatory that anybody who calls himself an Eskimo should know how to dance.
Thank you, John Active, for that excellent interview. It's not often that we get to share our cultural values and traditions with people from across the sea. That's going to happen more now, and we want to thank KYUK-TV in Bethel for giving us the opportunity to do that. Now we turn to Barrow with commentary from, you guessed it, Elise Patkotak.
It's become a kind of tradition. Every summer, someone notices that there are a lot of cars in Barrow. In view of the surprised tone they use when noting this, I can only assume the dark winter interferes with their peripheral vision, and they're unable to see that the same amount of cars are on the road in winter as summer. The same person who notes what seems to be an excess of summer traffic usually makes the annual suggestion that we put in a traffic signal. As though the traffic signs we have already are not enough proof that we're slipping away from our bush origins. How can any self-respecting community call itself the Alaskan bush and then put in a traffic light? I guess progress is inevitable to some extent. For instance, we now have house numbers. This makes it easier for fire, police, and taxis to respond to calls. Before numbers, when everyone just knew where everyone else lived, directions for these calls consisted of fairly colorful descriptions of locations that made sense only to someone who had lived here all their lives. For instance, to direct a cab to your location, you might say, I live in Smith's old house next to Thompson's kids, across from where Ethel used to live before she and Sammy moved to Bob and Jenny's new place. Not only did this system work, it kept everyone with a CB appraised of what was going on in everyone else's life. But then we grew up, and there were new faces in town. New houses have no history, so you can't locate them by who might have once lived, laughed, dreamed, and died there. Instead, we have house numbers, and everything becomes very cut, dry, efficient, and urban. When the traffic signs first went up here, they tended to disappear fairly quickly. I could never figure out if the kids here were just decorating their rooms or someone was making a philosophical statement about progress. I guess a traffic light would be harder to steal, though I have no doubt someone will try it if we put it up. But for now, we don't have to worry. Summer is almost over, and no traffic light has appeared. Just in case, though, it's time to check out property on the Coville River. The world seems to be getting a little too close for comfort.
Thank you, Elise. Before I leave, I'd like to remind you to talk to your legislator if you have concerns about the cutting off of the funds for travel to repair earth stations out in the bush. As you know, this is how many of the villages get RatNet, over 240 of them. If you have concerns about this, about the money not being there for repairs, please do contact the state of Alaska or your legislator. For Heartbeat Alaska, I'm Jeannie Green. Join me again next week, won't you, for Native News Across the North. See you then.